Step away from the vehicle. Hands where I can see them. Now.
Hands are visible. Am I being detained or is this a consensual encounter?
That car doesn't belong to you. ID, right now.
You have no reasonable suspicion. Detain me without cause and you're violating the Fourth Amendment.
Turn around. You're under arrest.
You're about to lose your badge.
The body camera mounted on the center of Officer Kyle Braden's chest captured every frame of the disaster that was about to unfold. It recorded the sunlight glinting off the polished chrome of the vintage bumper. It recorded the calm, steady hands of the man polishing that chrome. And it recorded the exact moment Braden decided to destroy his own career. At the time, Braden, a 28-year-old patrolman with an aggressive streak and a history of complaints he called proactive policing, thought he was making a bust. He thought he had stumbled upon a grand theft auto in progress behind the self-service car wash on Elm Street. He had absolutely no idea that the man he was approaching, the man carefully drying the hood of a pristine 1969 Mustang Shelby GT500, was Marcus Thorne. Marcus wasn't just a car enthusiast. He was a 54-year-old senior special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, a man who had spent 3 decades taking down organized crime syndicates, domestic terrorists, and corrupt public officials. And in about 10 minutes, he was going to teach Officer Braden a lesson in constitutional law that the young cop would never forget. Before we get into the details of this infuriating encounter, I need you to take a second. Look at where you are right now. Are you safe? Are you free? Now imagine losing that freedom in the blink of an eye just because of what you look like and what you drive. If you believe that badge and uniform should never be a shield for misconduct, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You need to see how this ends. It was a beautiful Saturday morning in October. The air was crisp, the kind of autumn day that makes you glad to be alive. Marcus Thorne had looked forward to this all week. His job at the Bureau was high-stress managing complex RICO cases that spanned multiple states. The Mustang was his therapy. He had bought the chassis 5 years ago, a rusted-out shell found in a barn in rural Virginia, and restored it bolt by bolt. It wasn't just a car. It was a testament to patience and precision. He was dressed in his weekend work clothes, a pair of well-worn coveralls and a faded navy t-shirt. He didn't look like a Fed. He looked like a mechanic or a laborer. To Officer Kyle Braden, who was cruising slowly through the alleyway on patrol, Marcus looked like a suspect. Braden slowed his patrol car. He saw a black man in dirty clothes standing next to a vehicle that was easily worth 6 figures. In Braden's mind, the equation didn't balance. He didn't run the plates. He didn't check for stolen vehicle reports in the area. He simply saw the contrast, the man and the machine, and made a snap judgment. He parked his cruiser at an angle effectively blocking the exit of the wash bay. It was a power move designed to intimidate before a word was even spoken. Marcus looked up as the cruiser blocked him in. He didn't flinch. He didn't look nervous. He simply set his microfiber towel down on the roof of the Mustang and waited. He had been a federal agent since before Braden was in kindergarten. He knew the procedure. He knew the body language. And he saw Braden exit the vehicle, hand hovering near his waist, chest puffed out. Marcus sighed internally. He just wanted to wax his car. But he knew with the weary certainty of a black man in America who had lived through the 70s, 80s, and 90s that his Saturday morning peace was over. Officer Braden approached with a stride that was too fast, too aggressive for a consensual encounter. He didn't offer a greeting. He didn't ask if everything was all right. He went straight to the command voice he had practiced in the academy. "Step away from the vehicle," Braden barked. Marcus didn't move away, nor did he move toward the officer. He stood his ground, resting a hand casually on the side mirror of the Mustang. His voice was calm, a deep baritone that carried the weight of authority even if Braden was too deaf to hear it. "Good morning, officer. Is there a problem?" "I said step away from the vehicle. Put your hands where I can see them." "My hands are visible," Marcus said, holding them out slightly to his sides, palms open. They were covered in car wax residue. "I'm asking you again, officer. What is the reason for this interaction? Am I being detained?" Braden stopped about 10 feet away. He didn't like the pushback. In his 3 years on the force, he was used to people cowering, apologizing, or running. He wasn't used to a man in dirty coveralls speaking to him like a law professor. "I'm conducting an investigation. I need to see your ID and the registration for this vehicle." Marcus knew the script better than Braden did. "Respectfully, officer, unless you have a reasonable, articulable suspicion that I have committed a crime, am committing a crime, or am about to commit a crime, I am not required to identify myself. This is a consensual encounter, is it not?" Braden's eyes narrowed behind his sunglasses. He took a step closer, encroaching on Marcus's personal space. "This vehicle fits the description of a car reported stolen in the area." It was a lie. Marcus knew it was a lie. He had the police scanner app on his phone running in his pocket, an old habit from his days in the field. There had been no calls for a stolen classic Mustang. It was a pretext to stop clumsy and transparent. "Really?" Marcus asked, his expression unreadable. "A 1969 Shelby GT500 in Acapulco blue. That's a very specific description, officer. Did dispatch give you a VIN number?" "Don't play lawyer with me." Braden snapped his hand, resting definitively on his holster now. "You're acting suspicious, looking around, nervous behavior. That gives me the right to ID you. Now hand over the license or you're going for a ride." "I am not nervous," Marcus corrected him, his pulse not rising even a single beat per minute. "And washing a car at a car wash is not suspicious activity. It is the intended use of this facility. You are fishing, officer, and you are violating my Fourth Amendment rights. I suggest you get back in your cruiser and carry on with your patrol." "You don't tell me what to do," Braden shouted. The veneer of professionalism was cracking. He was young, hot-headed, and used to complete submission. "You are detained for investigation of auto theft. Now, for the last time, give me your ID." "I will not," Marcus stated firmly. "You have no reasonable suspicion. Terry v. Ohio is clear on this. You cannot manufacture suspicion based on my refusal to answer questions during a consensual encounter. If you arrest me, it will be an unlawful seizure." The commotion was drawing attention. The car wash was busy on a Saturday morning. 2 bays over a man in his 60s, a retired Marine named Frank, judging by the decal on his truck, had stopped scrubbing his tires. He watched the interaction for a moment, sensing the tension, then reached into his pocket. He pulled out his smartphone and started recording. He held the phone horizontally steady and open. He had seen enough news stories to know that video evidence was the only truth that mattered these days. Marcus clocked the witness immediately. He gave a subtle nod in Frank's direction, acknowledging the camera. It was good. The more eyes, the better. Braden noticed the audience too, but instead of checking his behavior, it made him more defensive. He felt the eyes of the public on him, and he felt his authority slipping away. He couldn't walk away now. It would look like he had been talked down by a suspect. "Who does the car belong to?" Braden demanded, trying a different angle. "It belongs to me," Marcus said. "Prove it." Marcus moved his hand slowly toward the pocket of his coveralls. "I'm going to reach into my right pocket to retrieve my keys. I am not reaching for a weapon." He narrated his movements clearly for the benefit of the Bodycam and the witness. "Do it slowly," Braden warned, unclicking the retention strap on his holster. Marcus pulled out a simple keyring. On it was a modern fob he had retrofitted for the door locks, a small luxury he had installed himself. He held the fob up. "Watch the lights." He pressed the button. Chirp. The Mustang's amber parking lights flashed, and the heavy mechanical thunk of the locks disengaging echoed in the concrete bay. "Satisfied?" Marcus asked. "I have the keys. The car is mine. I am washing it. There is no crime here." Braden stared at the car. The lights had flashed. The proof was irrefutable. A rational officer, a good officer, would have said, "My apologies, sir, just doing my job," and left. But Braden wasn't looking for the truth. He was looking for a win. He felt small. He felt foolish. And he blamed Marcus for making him feel that way. "That doesn't mean anything," Braden argued, his logic crumbling but his volume increasing. "You could have stolen the keys. You could have carjacked the owner." "Officer," Marcus said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming colder. "You are digging a hole. Stop digging. You have established that I have possession of the keys. You have no report of a carjacking. You have no report of a theft. You are now detaining me solely because your ego cannot accept that you made a mistake. This is harassment." "You're being belligerent," Braden yelled, pointing a finger in Marcus's face. "You're obstructing a police investigation." "Asserting my rights is not obstruction," Marcus replied. "And being black in a nice car is not a crime." "You are profiling me, and you are doing it on camera." "That's it." Braden stepped forward, pulling his handcuffs from his belt. "I'm done asking." The air in the car wash bay seemed to freeze. The water in the bucket at Marcus's feet had stopped rippling. The only sound was the distant hum of traffic and the heavy breathing of Officer Braden. Marcus stood up straighter. He didn't assume a fighting stance, but he squared his shoulders. He looked Braden directly in the eye, a gaze that had broken men far tougher than this suburban patrolman. "Officer, listen to me very carefully," Marcus said. "I'm going to give you one chance to walk away. If you put those cuffs on me, you are crossing a line you cannot uncross. You will lose your qualified immunity, you will be sued personally, and you will lose your badge." Braden scoffed. "Is that a threat?" "It is a statement of fact," Marcus said. "Inside my wallet, which is in my back pocket, you will find my identification. You will find that I am a federal agent. I have been a law enforcement officer for 30 years. I know the law better than you do, and I am telling you, you do not have probable cause for an arrest." Braden paused. For a split second, doubt flickered in his eyes. A federal agent? But then he looked at the coveralls. He looked at the dirty hands. He looked at the neighborhood. No way, he thought. He's lying. They always lie. "Yeah, and I'm the director of the CIA," Braden sneered. "Turn around, hands behind your back." "You are making a mistake," Marcus said softly. "I said, turn around. You are under arrest for failure to obey a lawful order and resisting arrest." "There was no lawful order," Marcus said, but he turned. He knew that fighting physically would only give Braden the justification to use force, maybe even lethal force. Marcus had seen it happen too many times. The fight wouldn't be here in the wet concrete of a car wash. The fight would be in a courtroom. The fight would be on paper. Marcus placed his hands behind his back. He felt the cold steel of the handcuffs click tight against his wrists. Too tight. "You're hurting him," the witness Frank shouted from 20 feet away. "He didn't do anything. I got it all on video, officer. You're making a bad move." "Back off or you're next," Braden shouted over his shoulder at the veteran. He pushed Marcus roughly toward the patrol car. "Get moving." Marcus walked with dignity despite the cuffs. He didn't struggle. He didn't shout. He began mentally cataloging every second. Time of arrest, 10:42 a.m. Location, Elm Street Wash. Officer badge number. He glanced at Braden's chest plate. Badge 492. Name, Braden. Braden opened the back door of the cruiser and shoved Marcus inside. The plastic seat was hard. The cage was cramped. Marcus sat awkwardly, his shoulders aching from the angle of his arms. Braden slammed the door. He stood outside for a moment, catching his breath, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He felt powerful. He had won. He had taken the suspect down. He walked around to the other side of the car, opened the rear door, and leaned in. "Now." Braden said. "Let's see who you really are." Braden reached into the back pocket of Marcus's coveralls. He was rough digging for the wallet. This was a search incident to arrest standard procedure, but Braden performed it with a vindictive energy. He pulled out the worn leather billfold. "Let's see," Braden muttered. "Probation warrants." "What are you hiding?" He flipped the wallet open. He didn't see a driver's license at first. He saw gold. The badge was embedded in the leather, catching the sunlight that filtered through the cruiser window. It wasn't a dinky security guard badge. It was heavy. It was detailed. Above the seal were the words, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Below it, Department of Justice. Next to the badge was the ID card. The photo was of Marcus looking stern in a suit and tie. The text read, Marcus Thorne, Senior Special Agent. Braden stopped breathing. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. The adrenaline that had been pumping through him turned instantly into ice water. He looked at the picture. He looked at the man in the back seat. Marcus stared back at him. His expression hadn't changed. It was the look of a man who was watching a train wreck in slow motion. "I told you," Marcus said. His voice was muffled by the plexiglass partition, but clear enough. Braden's hands started to shake. He looked around. Had anyone seen the badge? The witness with the phone was still recording from a distance. Braden quickly snapped the wallet shut. Panic set in. This wasn't just a bad stop. This was a career-ending catastrophe. He had arrested a federal agent, a senior agent. His mind raced. What do I do? The smart thing. The only thing would be to uncuff him right now, apologize profusely, beg for forgiveness, and pray this man had mercy. But Braden wasn't smart. He was proud, and he was scared. If he released him now, he would have to explain why he cuffed him in the first place. He would have to admit he was wrong. But if he booked him, if he charged him, maybe he could spin it. Maybe he could say the agent was being disorderly. Maybe he could say he didn't identify himself in time. I have to stick to the story. Braden thought, a cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. He was resisting. He refused to ID. That's the story. He shoved the wallet into his own pocket. He slammed the door. He didn't say a word to Marcus. He got into the driver's seat, his hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. He started the engine. He didn't call it in on the radio. He just drove. The ride to the precinct took 15 minutes. It was the loudest silence Officer Braden had ever experienced. Every bump in the road felt like a gavel coming down. He kept glancing in the rearview mirror, hoping to see Marcus looking worried or angry. But Marcus just sat there looking out the window, observing the passing city with a detached, analytical gaze. Marcus was furious, of course. He was seething. But he had learned a long time ago that anger was a tool and you didn't use it until the moment was right. He was building his case. He was memorizing the route. He noted that Braden was driving 5 miles over the speed limit. He noted that Braden failed to signal a turn on 4th Street. Every detail was ammunition. When they pulled into the sally port of the 12th precinct, the automatic garage door rumbled shut behind them, sealing them in the concrete belly of the station. Braden turned off the car. He sat there for a full minute trying to compose himself. "Get out," Braden said, opening the back door. He hauled Marcus out. He didn't search him again. He didn't want to touch him more than necessary. He walked him through the heavy steel doors into the processing area. The intake room was buzzing with the usual Saturday activity. Drunks, petty thieves, domestic disputes. At the main desk sat Sergeant Miller. Miller was 58 years old, a relic of the old school with a thick mustache and eyes that had seen everything the city had to offer. He was eating a turkey sandwich and reading a paperwork file. He looked up as Braden entered with Marcus. Miller paused mid-chew. He looked at Marcus. He saw the coveralls, yes, but he also saw the posture. He saw the way Marcus held his head. And then he looked at Braden. He saw the sweat. He saw the shaking hands. "What do we have here, Braden?" Miller asked, his voice gravelly. "Resisting arrest," Braden said quickly. "Failure to obey. Refused to ID during a stolen vehicle investigation." Miller frowned. He put his sandwich down. "Stolen vehicle? Which one? The Mustang. The classic one." Miller looked at Marcus. "Sir, step forward." Marcus stepped up to the desk. "Good afternoon, Sergeant." Miller blinked. Most suspects didn't say good afternoon with that kind of diction. "Name? My name is Marcus Thorne. I am a senior special agent with the FBI. My credentials are currently in Officer Braden's pocket along with my wallet, which he seized after unlawfully arresting me for washing my own car." The room went dead silent. Typewriters stopped clacking. Phones stopped ringing. Every officer in the room froze. Miller stood up slowly. He looked at Braden. "Braden, give me the wallet." "Sarge, he was acting crazy. He wouldn't give me the wallet." Miller's voice wasn't a request. It was an order from a man who had survived 30 years on the streets to a boy who was playing dress-up. Braden reached into his pocket and handed over the leather billfold. Miller opened it. He saw the gold badge. He closed his eyes for a second, exhaling a long, painful sigh. He knew exactly what this meant. He looked at the badge again, then at Marcus. "Take the cuffs off," Miller said quietly. "But Sarge, he—" "Take them off now." Miller roared, his voice echoing off the cinder-block walls. Braden fumbled for his keys. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped them once. He picked them up and unlocked the cuffs. Marcus rubbed his wrists. He looked at the red marks on his skin. He didn't say thank you. He looked at Miller. "I want your watch, Commander. I want the captain. And I want them now." "I'm calling him," Miller said. He picked up the phone, his hand steady but his face pale. "Captain, gently." "Yeah, it's Miller. You need to come down to intake. Right now." "No, sir. Right now. We have a situation. We have a federal agent in custody." 3 minutes later, Captain Richard Gentle burst through the doors. He was a tall man, balding, with a reputation for being a politician in uniform. He took in the scene instantly. The terrified rookie, the furious but controlled black man in coveralls, the grim-faced sergeant. "Agent Thorne," Captain Gentle said, extending a hand. "I am so sorry. There must be some terrible misunderstanding." Marcus didn't shake the hand. He left the captain hanging. "This wasn't a misunderstanding, Captain. This was a violation of my civil rights. This was an unlawful seizure, and it was a kidnapping." The captain lowered his hand slowly. "We can straighten this out. Officer Braden, go to my office." "He stays right here," Marcus commanded. His voice filled the room. "He stays right here where I can see him. I want the body camera footage secured immediately. I want the dash cam footage. I want the dispatch logs. I want the name of the witness who was recording at the car wash." "We will preserve everything, Agent Thorne, I assure you," the captain stammered. Marcus turned to Braden. The young officer was pressed against the wall, looking like a child who had broken a priceless vase. "You asked me for articulable suspicion," Marcus said to Braden. "You wanted to play the game. Well, now we're playing in my league. You profiled me. You ignored evidence of innocence. You fabricated a charge because your fragile ego couldn't handle a black man knowing the law. And then, when you found my badge, instead of doing the right thing, you tried to bury it." Braden tried to speak. I was just following procedure." "Procedure?" Marcus laughed, a harsh, mirthless sound. "I wrote the procedure on interagency cooperation for this district. You weren't following procedure. You were following your bias." Marcus turned back to the captain. "I am leaving now. I'm going to finish washing my car. By Monday morning, my attorney will be in touch with the city solicitor. and the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division will be in touch with you." "Agent Thorne, please," the captain pleaded. "Let's discuss this. We can handle this internally." "Oh, you will handle it internally," Marcus said, picking up his wallet from the desk. "But that's just the beginning." He turned and walked out of the precinct. He didn't look back. He called an Uber on his phone. He went back to the car wash. His bucket was still there. The water was cold. He poured it out, filled it with fresh water, and finished washing his Mustang. The fallout was swift, brutal, and public. The video from Frank, the retired Marine, hit the internet that evening. By Sunday morning, it had 2 million views. By Monday, it was on every national news network. The image of the calm, dignified man in coveralls being handcuffed while a young officer screamed at him became a symbol of everything wrong with modern policing. But the real damage happened behind closed doors. Marcus kept his word. The lawsuit he filed wasn't about money, though the settlement offer from the city was substantial. It was about exposure. The internal affairs investigation was comprehensive. They couldn't sweep it under the rug. The spotlight was too bright. They reviewed Braden's Bodycam footage. It was damning. The audio captured Braden admitting the car fit a description that didn't exist. It captured his lie about the stolen vehicle report. It captured his shock when he found the badge. Officer Kyle Braden was placed on unpaid leave within 48 hours. 3 weeks later, after a disciplinary hearing that lasted less than an hour, he was terminated for cause. The list of violations was a page-long false arrest, filing a false report, conduct unbecoming violation of civil rights. But it didn't stop with Braden. The DOJ investigation that Marcus triggered opened up the department's archives. They found a pattern. Braden wasn't a rogue apple. He was part of a culture that encouraged pretextual stops in minority neighborhoods. The investigation led to the resignation of Captain Gentle and a federal consent decree that forced the department to overhaul its training and hiring practices. Marcus donated the entire settlement amount, $450,000, to a legal defense fund for those who couldn't afford to fight back. He continued to work for the FBI for another year before retiring. 6 months after the incident, Marcus was at a gas station filling up the Mustang. A young patrol car pulled in. A rookie officer looking nervous was at the pump next to him. The officer looked at the Mustang, then at Marcus. Marcus tensed up just for a second. The trauma was still there. It never really goes away. But the young officer just smiled. "Beautiful car, sir. Is that a 69? Marcus relaxed. "Yes, it is." "My dad had one," the officer said. "Drive safe." "You too, officer," Marcus said. "You too." Bye. The end. As we watch Officer Braden's career evaporate and Marcus Thorne drive off into the sunset, we have to sit with a heavy truth. Marcus survived and triumphed because he had a gold badge in his pocket. He had the power of the federal government behind him. But what if he had been a carpenter, a teacher, a nurse? What if he had just been Marcus, the man without the title? The outcome would have likely been very different. That is the tragedy of this story. Justice shouldn't require a badge to be served. It should be the default setting for everyone regardless of what they drive or the color of their skin. What do you think? Would Officer Braden have been fired if Marcus wasn't an FBI agent? Or would he have gotten away with it like so many others? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story moved you, please share it. The more we talk about these things, the more we can change them. Stay safe, know your rights, and I'll see you in the next one.